The House Judiciary Committee is set to vote on impeachment articles today following a marathon debate that went late last night. That vote was supposed to happen last night, but it was delayed after committee chairman Jerry Nadler suddenly ended debate and postponed that vote until this morning. The delay angered Republican members who accused Democrats of grandstanding and complained that it disrupted travel schedules. If the committee votes to approve the articles of impeachment alleging abuse of power and obstruction of Congress, they will go for a full vote in the House of Representatives. That vote could come as early as next week. If the House then passes the articles of impeachment, the Senate could hold a trial in early 2020 to decide whether President Trump should be removed from office. So far, the markets seem to be brushing off the outcome. Since September, the Dow's actually up about 6.5%, despite fluctuations on trade and impeachment news. Joining us right now for a look at the cost of impeachment is James Pethokoukis. He is economic policy analyst at the American Enterprise Institute, also a CNBC contributor. Also, Sarah Bianchi, who is head of U.S. public policy and political strategy at Evercore ISI. Jim, what do you think? What is the cost of impeachment? Has there been one yet?
Well, listen, you mentioned that the markets seem to be brushing this off. It's because they think they know the outcome. The outcome is that the president will be impeached, but then this thing's going to get suffocated in the Senate. And Mitch McConnell basically said as much last night, that we all know there's no chance this president is going to be expelled from office. I thought there's maybe, I don't know, a 1 in 5 chance that we actually might get a lot of Republican votes against the president in the Senate. Now, I think there's like about a 1 in 500 chance of that happening. He might not get any votes to actually expel him, to convict him in the Senate.
Sarah, if that's the case, what happens just in terms of legislation? Does this slow things down next year as an angry president kind of comes back and says, wait a second, I want there's a price to pay for this. There's not going to be any getting along and pushing legislation through. What happens?
Well, what's interesting is that, ironically, in this flurry in December, it's actually led to more legislation. I think what you're seeing is House Democrats and Pelosi in particular feeling pressure to show voters that she can make progress on issues they care about at the same time as impeachment. And so actually she's passed legislation in the House this week on prescription drug pricing, on NAFTA 2.0, has announced a deal, and it looks like they're going to get a budget deal. So, ironically, so far it's meant that
That's because right now the Democrats are trying to prove that they can litigate and legislate at the same time. What happens once this is over? And by the way, the stuff that she's passed, USMCA, that's something the president wanted, the administration had been pushing. In terms of drug pricing or some of these other issues, Jim, you think there's any chance that any of this actually works its way into law?
Well, that's a good point. We're definitely not going to see some of this legislation. And you're right to say, look, we're going into an election year, more importantly than anything else, I think, in terms of next year. And so we're going to see a lot of the president trying to frame the election and the economic conditions, which he'll take credit for. So I don't think that either way, impeachment or not, we were on track for a lot of legislating.
So Jim, Pence can't vote on anything here. There was some scuttlebutt that McConnell might go for an acquittal. And what do you need? He could only lose 2 if he went for an actual acquittal. Have you seen that scuttle that he might actually try to do that instead of just not getting to 67, which we know? But if he could get 50, what's he need? 51 to get an outright proclamation of innocence or acquittal. But if you lost Romney or if you lost anybody, then you can't have Pence come in to break the tie.
Well, no, listen. I think I'm pretty sure. I think the goal is to run the board here and maybe get somebody like Romney again to maybe he doesn't vote. Maybe he doesn't vote at all. But obviously, what markets ultimately care about.
Do you know about the acquittal angle? Because
I have not heard people talk about that acquittal angle.
McConnell
no.
supposedly is if he could do it, but do they whip? Yesterday, I heard Pelosi say we don't whip votes on anything like this because it's
But McConnell wants to just not even have a trial.
There are Republican senators who are at risk of losing. They do not want to lose those Republican senators.
If he just did the acquittal,
like Cory Gardner.
That's like a vindication. But you need to know you have 51.
No, it's going to be complicated for sure for some Republicans. It's definitely going to be complicated. But if he can show an acquittal, that's obviously a great victory for McConnell and the president.
Right. And I'm wondering how many Dems we get next week. They said it could be 2, could be as many as 6. Do you know any?
I think that the Democrats and Republicans in the Senate, really, we're not going to have a great feel until we come into next year and see how this trial is going to play out. I think McConnell's floating the idea right now, but we got to see. We're not into the Senate yet. I think we'll have a week-long trial that Justice Roberts isn't going to preside over kind of nothing. He's going to make this look like a real procedure, but it is going to be quick, and it's everybody's interest, I think, to, like Jim said, this is already kind of, we know how the outcome's going to look, and so we might as well get through it and move on.
Thank you.